Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another fabulous lesson in the full stack social course today. I really hope you're doing well out there in the realistic world. Now, in today's video, I would like to go back into our iOS application and make a couple of improvements. Before I get into that, why don't I kind of remind you what we were able to accomplish in the last couple of videos. So basically, here is the web application. Going to the homepage, it looks like this. Going to the profile, you'll see now in the account settings, we can update the full name, bio, and also the avatar by clicking on this and hitting the save button down here. And everything is working pretty much perfectly. What I would like to do is to make sure the iOS application has the same feature set. So for example, if we have this app on the right side, you see we have a tab bar at the very bottom, allows us to navigate between pages. Here is the home feed. Clicking on the profile right here will load the current profile for the logged in user. And in addition to this page here, I want to be able to edit the profile by clicking onto that guy. When I click and select a photo, why don't we select one of these tasty burgers? It's going to upload that photo to the server and then update this circle here with that photo. Okay, this is hopefully what we can try to accomplish in today's lesson. Currently, the app doesn't have all the bells and whistles, so why don't we start building out this application here one step at a time. All right, first thing we'll do is we're going to introduce something called a MainTabBarController. Again, it's going to allow us to navigate between pages just like that. Next thing to tackle is to make sure that for this screen right here, right, I'm going to utilize the same profile controller for these guys here. But instead of fetching a public profile, I'm going to fetch the current user profile. I'll show you what I mean once we get to that step. And then lastly, let me show you how to use one of these edit profile buttons instead of the profile or the follow button right here. And then if we have the time, I'll show you how to update this guy using a post request to the server. All right, hopefully that's not too bad and hopefully it's not too confusing. Let's get started by going back into our Xcode project right over here. If you launch this guy in the XR simulator, you'll see the exact same page we saw earlier. And we're currently logged in as the concert lover. I am going to go into the app delegate here. What I want to have as the root view controller, instead of this nav controller with this thing here, is some kind of tab bar controller. I'm going to assume a lot of you guys already know how to do this, so I might go through this a little bit quicker. MainTabBarController, this is going to be a class. Why don't we first import UI kit class MainTabBarController. This guy is a UI tab bar controller, pretty easy stuff here. Pretty much always going to use view.load, so super view.load there. And this is pretty good. Inside of your tab bar controllers, you can pretty much set your pages through the view controllers array. This guy can be anything, you know, for example, VC equals UI view controller and say VC background color, or not background color, but view background color equals dot, let's say yellow for now. And just inside of this array, we'll pop in the view controller from the lines above. And with this being defined like that, MainTabBarController, I'm gonna go back and let's see, app delegate UI nav bar controller. I don't want you anymore, so go away. Window root view controller equals my MainTabBarController. Running this, some of you guys might be able to guess what you'll see. Basically, here is our yellow view controller because in line 16 and 17, we have the background color of yellow for this VC here. Okay, that's basically how you set up a MainTabBarController. And the way that you set up these buttons here is to set the, let's say, VC dot tab bar item and image equal to something. And you can do this a lot of different ways. Maybe image literal is what you'll use. And click on this guy. And let's see, double click. Hopefully you will show up. Let me use this home icon that I've already imported into the assets. So the assets now contain the user, the search, let's see, the home, and the plus button right here. I will try to provide these down below in the description. But if you don't see it, make sure to remind me. All right, running this now, you get the home button here. One thing that you're missing is the navigation controller bar at the top. So let me show you an easy way of kind of creating these view controllers so that you save yourself a lot of time and code. I am going to copy and paste this function in here called create nav controller. This guy, let me show you what I want to do with it first. So create nav controller, I'm going to create it using the above yellow VC, and then I'll pass in this home icon here. So if I can cut this guy, cut and paste, there is my home icon. And this should be all I need. I am going to run this again. It's going to provide me with a navigation controller. And this means I'll have the nav bar up at the very top. And then right below it sets the image based on the parameter that I put in there. And then it returns me my nav controller so that I can kind of stuff it inside of this page. Now with this guy, I'm going to call this function just a couple of more times. Let's see, 1, 2, this guy is going to be the plus button, double click the plus, double click, and we'll get the profile icon like so. I think I want to change these guys. Let's see, tab bar dot tint color allows me to change the item color for each of those tabs. Hit the comma, make sure to fix your bugs, obviously. Let's see. Running this now, you will see this guy right here. So black, the plus, and then the user profile in the yellow, because that's this guy right here. All right, so there are a couple of bugs that I'm seeing right off the bat here, but I'll fix it one step at a time. This home page right here, instead of using VC, I'm just going to, let's see, home controller, declare this using that. And that looks okay. This guy on the right is the profile controller. Let me show you what I can do by just simply saying profile controller like that. This guy, because we have a custom initializer that forces us to pass in some kind of user ID as a string, I'm simply going to pass in the empty string, and I'll show you the problem and the fix once we get to it. Okay, you'll see that the very first page that you have is this home controller here with the nav bar at the top. And then for the second page, we'll have the yellow VC right here, which we'll fix a little bit later. And then for the profile page, you have this blank right here now. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. One thing I'll do to fix this profile screen right now is to go inside of the profile controller, and I'll show you what's happening currently. Inside of UDIT-load, we are calling this fetch user profile function, right? So right here, and let's see, the URL is a part we have to actually fix. Currently it's trying to fetch the public profile using user and user ID. This guy right now in this specific scenario is the empty string. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to declare user, let's see, current user profile equals some kind of URL. It's going to look very similar to this guy. So let me do this right here, copy and paste. This URL is simply going to hit our profile action. And then the public profile URL. Let's see, this is URL, and I'm going to copy and paste this guy right here. And let me say, let URL, if the self.userid right here, the initializer parameter from up here, so this guy, if this is empty, so is empty, should be a function I can use, is empty right here. And if it's empty, I'm going to utilize the, let's see, current user profile URL, and then otherwise public profile URL, just like that. All right, once I have this code up and running, hopefully you can see the profile right now. Let's see, clicking on this screen right here, you can see the spinner, and hitting the current user profile using this URL, you'll see it loads everything that we need for the current user. I am the concert lover. We are having these couple of post objects like this, and everything looks pretty good to me. Okay, so now that we are correctly pulling down the user profile right over here, the next thing I would like to talk about is this follow button at the very top. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to have a follow button for your own user profile. So instead of showing follow, I might want to say edit profile instead. Currently this doesn't do anything, but I want to see a blue button instead of this black and white follow. This is pretty easy if you go inside of this header object. Let me remind you by going back into profile header. What we are declaring all the way at the top are all of the UI elements here. In addition to the follow button, why don't I declare some kind of edit profile? So edit profile button equals something. I have some code on my screen, which I'll copy, and I don't really want to type all this code out. It's not that meaningful. For the actual action and target, I'm going to use the handle edit profile action. I'm going to declare it somewhere down here below all of my UI elements. Maybe this will be a little bit cleaner. So file, private function, and handle edit profile. So handle there, and this looks good. This should compile. The next thing I will need is to actually add this into the UI somewhere. Currently this button has the title of edit profile. The, let's see, title color is white, looking like that. The background color is this bluish color specified by this color literal. And that's pretty much how we are defining our edit button. Next thing to do, I'm going to go down to the override init function here. Inside of the stacking of the profile image view at the top, we have the follow button next, and then we have the post count stuff below it. I am going to say, let's see, edit profile button, and let's see, let's just use a comma. I'm going to rerun and make sure this guy shows up correctly inside of the profile here. And so that's my edit profile button. I'm going to copy the exact same style of the width and height from the follow button above. And this looks pretty good. I might want to copy the corner radius as well. So, you can obviously style this button however you want it. It's really up to you, the UI that you're trying to go for. So making those little edits, going back to the profile here, you can now see these two buttons stacked on top of each other. All right, that is looking nicely inside of the profile header. And the way I'm going to make this button up here go away is to actually make sure that I am inside of the user profile for the currently logged in user, right? So what I mean is, if I go into this search menu here, I can see the cheeseburger eater. Clicking into this is loading the same profile controller. I want to make sure that for this screen, I see the follow button. However, for the profile controller, I want to see the edit profile button instead. All right, so that's the logic that I'm trying to go for. And the way I'm going to do this is to do a couple of things here. I'm going to go into the user.swift. I'm going to add a property here that allows me to figure out whether or not I'm the current user. And this property is going to be called something like is editable, and make it be a Boolean optional. And so that looks pretty good. Maybe we want to just default it to false. I think I will do that. And now that we have this Boolean is editable, I can go back to the profile controller here. And then after I fetch my profile, right, I can set the property manually down below after I decode it from the data. So I am just simply going to say self.user.isEditable. So let me build. The actual property will now show up. I'm going to set user is editable equal to be self.userID is empty. All right. So if it's empty, I'm currently inside of this screen here. And once I do that, I'm going to run my code again. Those two buttons will still be there because I'm not really using this property just yet. I'm going to go into the profile here, and it should show up somewhere right there. Okay, now there is a JSON decoding problem right here for the is editable. This means I want to go into is editable. I'm going to simply set this guy to an optional. This means that the server doesn't exactly have to return this property in order to decode things correctly. So just make it an optional, things will fix itself. Go into the profile here. This guy looks pretty good. The last thing I'll do is I'm gonna go into the profile header now. And whenever this user is being set up here and all these properties are being set inside of these lines, I am going to also do this. I'm gonna say if the user dot is editable. If this is equal to true, then I want to remove the follow button. So follow button remove from super view. Otherwise, let's remove the let's see, edit profile button, remove from super view. I'm going to run this code now. You'll see the effect right off the bat here. So profile, you'll see the follow button is now gone because the user is editable. And then for the actual search page, which is right here, so search is going to look like that. We can click into the cheeseburger eater, and now you'll see the follow button instead of the blue button of edit profile. Okay, so that's pretty much all I wanted to show you in the first part of today's lesson. I see the search button up here doesn't look like what I want it to look like. So instead of using the search right here and the create post, I want to remove this stuff so that I can have the magnifying glass, and also, let's see, all this stuff should be black, matching my style correctly. And the way I'm going to do this is go inside of home controller here. You can set things to be black on navigation controller dot navigation bar dot tint color equals dot black. And the things up above will turn black. So here we go, black color. For the actual, let's see, create post, maybe we don't want to see this, so comment that out. And for the first item, maybe we want to say init with an image. Let's use this guy. All right, so image literal. Let's pick the magnifying glass here. This guy is a dot plain, plain self, and let's see, selector like that. Handle search is what I want, and I believe I'm good to go. Let's run this now. I should hopefully get a magnifying glass up here. Clicking that will show me the search like that. Click into Gemrat, we will see every image for this user just like so. Okay, so I think the application right now is looking pretty good. And the last thing you might want to implement here is the ability to click on the profile image right here and present the image picker like so. This is actually pretty easy because we've already hooked up some components. I'll show you how to do this by going back into the profile header. And remember, in the last couple of episodes, we were able to follow users by clicking on that follow button there. Inside of the header, we have the handle follow. We are calling a function called profile controller, and handle follow and unfollow. So inside of this button of edit profile, we are executing line 35, so click into that. We will fire off that breakpoint here. Instead of executing this empty function, why don't I execute some code on profile controller? This guy will be something like profile controller, and let's see, change profile image, whatever you want to call this function. And this guy, I'm going to define somewhere inside of either profile controller or in its own file. Might be cleaner to just say new file. And let's say new file and profile controller. And let's say this guy is going to handle change profile or change avatar, I guess. All right, so create. And let's see, this guy will be import UI kit, I suppose, UI kit. And let's see, extension of profile controller. And this guy, we are going to implement the function that we specified in the profile header right over here. So change profile image, go to the extension here. And let's see, this guy will be a simple function and change profile image. And I believe that's pretty much what I want to do. This guy, you want to say let image picker equals some kind of UI image picker right here. Image pickers, delegate will be self. And what else do I want to do here? Present the image picker. So this function here, image picker, true, and wipe the completion. Don't really care about that. And before you can set the delegate here, you want to make sure this guy is UI navigation controller delegate, and also UI image picker controller delegate like that. If you don't have these two protocols, this will not compile. Once you have this, you might want to include change, or let's see, image picker did cancel. Let's just say dismiss if it actually cancels, and don't care about that. The other function is image picker, and this guy, I've typed this out 1,000 times before, so it's very familiar for me. If the selected image, if this guy is equal the info original image, as a UI image. This means we have the image out of the info dictionary there. We are going to just print out the selected image for now. Otherwise, maybe we'll just say dismiss of true, and let's say true or not true, but grab this. I'm going to put this in 2 places here. So this is all I'm going to code for now. And maybe if we have enough time, I'll actually upload the image. Let's see, we are going to run into a problem here. We don't have a question mark there. And with that minor fix, I will run my code now. I'm going to click into this guy, and we are going to execute change profile once we hit on this. It takes a moment for the image picker to load, but it should happen for us pretty soon. The last thing that we have to do is every time we click on this guy, right? So what I'm doing now is I'm clicking on edit profile, and it's firing off all that code. You can leave it on that button as well, or you can make the image clickable. So either way is really up to you. In order to make this image clickable, you want to make sure profile image is user interaction enabled is true. And then you want to set some kind of image view. And what is this going to be? Add a gesture recognizer, UI tap gesture, and target of self. So self. And let's see, pound selector, and handle change or handle edit profile. I think it's going to execute this function now. All right, so clicking on this, and you can click on the image as well as the button, does the same thing. Clicking on that, we can select any file that we want now, and let's say this guy right here. And we are dismissing down in the console. We are printing that out because inside of the image picker control did finish picking method, we have the print statement down here. Okay, so now that we're finally done with all of the heavy lifting inside of our app right now, the next thing we want to do is to actually upload the selected image right over here on line 20 and 21. Let me show you how I want to do this by first removing this code here. I'm going to type out the dismiss one more time, and let's use animation of true, hit the enter for the completion. And I'm going to call a function such as upload user profile image. And this guy will take in some kind of image of the selected image above. This function, I will now declare it. And let's see down below, file private function, upload user profile image, takes in some kind of UI image type like that. And I believe this guy should be okay. All right, the next couple of things I'll do is I'm going to show a HUD using JG Progress HUD. The code is like this. It's pretty easy to read. So the HUD, dark style, text label is that. We don't have the HUD just yet, so let's import the HUD. And while I'm here, why don't we also import Alamofire? Okay, 2 really great frameworks that we love to use. And down here, we should be okay. I am going to rerun my code in the XR simulator. You're going to see the HUD the moment that I click on the image here. Select my profile photo. Let's use this one there. Once it dismisses on completion, we are now showing this HUD below. Okay, finally, the last task is to actually upload this image into the server. The code is going to look pretty much like what we've been doing for the post objects. So it's not that interesting. I'm going to copy some code over, and I'll try to explain what I'll do right here. Okay, here is all of the code. I'm going to make sure the indents are correct, and I'm going to hit that, and it should be all right. I think I might want to comment this line out, and here, now everything is almost compilable. Okay, so the couple of things that I need access to is this user object here. I believe I need a self in front of this guy, or let's say like that. This guy should be somewhat okay. And it doesn't exactly like these optional values on the user object. Remember, we have the user accessible from this guy right here inside of the profile controller. This is merely an extension. I don't want to deal with optional, so let me undo. Inside of here, let's say guard let user equals user or self dot user, else return. And now these problems right here should go away. Okay, it looks good. The final thing that I would like to add onto my user is the actual bio. So I am just simply going to go into my user here. And remember, we're now saving this information called bio. And it's going to look something like this, var and bio. And also it's going to be a string of optional like that. Okay, so I'm going to run this right now and hopefully everything looks okay. So let's see, we are good to go. I'm going to go into the profile. And let's see, one thing that I want to fix right off the bat before I move on is this image right here really needs to be this photo for the hamburger. So let me go inside of the profile header, introduce one more line of code. This is pretty simple. So profile image view SD set image using the SD web image library. Right here, we need the URL. This guy is going to come from URL and it's a string. This guy should be something like user profile image URL. We don't have this property just yet. So let me copy this and go into the user object again. I believe it's going to be an optional string inside of the JSON, and this guy should be present. All right, so having this right now, let me go back. Whenever I am setting the user in the profile header, which is this file, I'm going to use the image URL. And because that's optional, I don't want to deal with the optional value, and let's remove that. I am going to run this code one more time. We should see this hamburger icon now. So click on that. And here we go. We have the hamburger icon just like that. So that's pretty good. Last thing we want to walk through is to make sure that the upload process is correct. This code is a bit of a monster, so why don't I walk through this guy maybe? Why don't we check first to see if this actually works? So I'm clicking into that. Click into, let's say, this lady in the little gym outfit. So everything looks okay. Successfully created post. I don't want that comment, so that's this right here. Let's say print out successfully uploaded or maybe updated user profile. And that's what I want instead. So we were able to successfully update the profile with the lady in the little gym brick house, which looks like that right now. The reason why it doesn't auto update is because I want to make this call to fetch the entire user again if I actually update this photo here. The other option is to update the header photo itself. So there's really a lot of different things that you can do. I will call this guy because it might be a little bit easier. So let me uncomment that, fetch user profile. Let's go back to the profile controller. I believe this is file private, so that's why it's not accessible. Let me remove that privilege modifier for the function, and now everything should be working correctly. Click into this, just pick whatever photo that you want. Let's go back to the hamburger and click on that. Everything is uploaded, and once it's uploaded, we are now refetching the image from the server because we are refetching the entire user object. Now, this code again is very similar to creating a post object. We're simply using Alamo Fire and upload using multi-part form data. This is very easy to get out of Alamo Fire. If you say upload Alamo Fire, so Alamo Fire, upload multi-part form data, it should be the first function that shows up, and just fill out the information below like this here. I'm passing the form data of full name and bio using these two appends here. And then I also append the image file of image data coming from the selected image. That's basically what we're doing here. And then during the result phase, I am checking for the error on the response. We're also dismissing the spinner HUD. And then finally, everything looks like it's working correctly. And then I refetch the user. So that's basically how I'm getting everything to work right now. Make sure if you have any questions about this stuff, do let me know. Alrighty guys, that's pretty much all I wanted to show you in today's lesson. If you want to update the user's bio right here to look like this over there, you might want to go back into your profile header and somewhere in the did set of your user, just simply say bio label.text equals the user's bio. This property here is going to come back now and be decoded in the JSON decoding process. So maybe that's true. So let's check if that's right. And bam, there we go. I like long walks on the beach. That's the bio text there. One tip that I have for you, just in case you need to confirm everything is working, is to open up your console area here. So here's my project, right? I am going to check the console down below whenever I modify this file here. So let's say I want to update the user's profile, right? Let's click on this image and make sure the right calls are being executed down below. And again, it's very helpful to just make sure that the routes are being hit. So profile is being updated with a post request, getting a 200, and we're also refetching the entire profile. That's why we get another profile call of get. Okay, so I believe that's going to be it for today's very, very long lesson. Hopefully I'll still see you in the next video. Bye bye guys.